This is AI.R. Artists in Residence Broadcasting, coming to you once a week from New York City. Hello, everybody. I'm John Cullum, and this is my wife, Emily Franco, and we're going to talk to you. I hope we're going to talk about something simple today, Emily. Not simple. Too complicated. Yeah.
Something that you can just jabber about.
That's right. Not too serious.
Well, I had something more complicated, but double toilet trouble.
Uh-oh.
Double toilet trouble. Witchcraft. John.
Yes, Em.
Do you have any strange, superstitious routines that you do before you go on stage on an opening night, a big, scary opening night? Did you ever have a routine? Did you pray? Did you knock on wood? Did you cross your fingers?
No, but I sweat a lot. I mean, and I don't normally sweat at all.
You don't sweat at all?
I hardly sweat, unless I'm doing some kind of sports. You know something, Emily? I never did have a routine, particularly. I guess I have routines now more than I used to.
Like what?
Well, I go over all my lines. I used to make sure I didn't go over lines on opening night. I always thought it was a mistake to go over your lines right before you had an opening because it took the freshness off. But now,
that's interesting.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And I don't think I was alone in that area. But I go over all my lines sometimes because I play smaller parts now, and I go through them three times.
But if you had a big role to do,
yes,
would you have any superstitious routine that you would do before you went on for a big role?
Well, the normal things that you don't whistle in the dressing room.
Oh,
you know,
I didn't know that.
And
what else?
Well, I'll tell you, I did an interview one time.
Yeah.
With this girl, and she asked me the same things that you're asking me, and I gave her the same kind of answers. I said, I don't usually do any kind of routine before a show. That I'm not superstitious because all of those things are based on real things. You don't whistle in the dressing room because that means your mind is not on what you're doing. You should be concentrated.
Yeah, but back in the days of Richard Burton, you had a helper, a dresser.
That's right.
And you had a bar in your...
Yes. But let me tell you what happened. And I said, listen, I'm sorry, I can't tell you, I don't have anything. Besides, it's time for me to go on. And so I went on stage, and just before I went on the stage, one of the stagehands said, you didn't step on your board, Mr. Cullum. Oh, I said, my God. And I went back, and I stepped on this board, and I realized suddenly that every night before I went on a clear day, I had this one little squeaky board before I stepped on stage, and if I missed that, I came back and stepped on it before I went on.
So John Cullum is superstitious.
I meant that I'd just gone through this whole thing. I don't have any superstitions.
Were you ever frightened about opening nights?
Terrified. I used to, when I first started, in college, I would sit backstage, and I would say, "What in the world are you doing? You are so nervous. You're so upset, and you feel terrible. I would rather be any place in the world than here." And I said, "Why are you doing it?" And but that's the way I felt about it. And I remember Richard Burton. Everybody goes through that period of time, but Richard would go before the opening of Camelot. I saw him go downstage and stand in front of the curtain and curse the audience. He'd scream at them and yell and say, "You blah 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 blah," and he'd call them all sorts of names right with his nose right on the curtain, and that seemed to relieve him somehow or another. So he had his
interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And but I don't have those feelings, and I get nervous if I don't get nervous, because that means you're not
Do you get nervous
confident.
before auditions?
auditions are a totally different thing. I hate auditions, and you remember I used to.
Oh, you're like a soldier, John. You go after things with a clarity and an energy and a thorough focus that's wonderful.
No,
To me, as an outsider, I never note you being nervous. I never note you avoiding anything. I just think that the way you approach nervousness is helpful and interesting for people who aren't actors or are thinking about being actors. So thank you for opening this subject and telling us what you do.
All right. Thank you for asking, and I think you answered it better than I did. Thank you. So long. We'll see you all next week. This is AI.R. See you next week.